Ayo, hello, Fantastics. It's Mr. Clintastik, preparing to review the Bloomburrow set coming out. Pre-releases this weekend. I believe the set drops next weekend. So I just wanted to give some of my initial impressions and speculation while I can. It's more so for me than anything to really kind of review the cards, kind of know what I'm going into with the set coming up and whatnot. So thank you for tuning in, and let's begin. There's a lot of cards to set. All the cards are animals, which I think is pretty cool. Um, every creature in this plane, they're animals. So yeah, I think there's a lot of cool abilities going on. I've already kind of reviewed a few of them already. So I have my eye on a couple cards, but well, let's just get right into it. First off, we got Helga, Skittish Seer. It's a green, white, blue legendary creature frog druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain 1 life, and put a 1/1 counter on Helga, Skittish Seer. You can then tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is Helga, Skittish Seer's power. Spend that mana only to cast creature spells with mana 4 or greater, or creature spells with X in their mana cost. It's a 1/3. Okay, solid card. Not something I'm probably gonna first pick. Green, white, blue. Not sure if that's the color trio I want to be in. There's several color trios that's showing up here. Um, overall, if you happen to be in like a green, white, and you can splash, or a white, blue, and you can splash it, I think this card will, overall do good. It's just not something I'm gonna first pick. Because you play it, and it really takes something else to really get that benefit. I could be wrong on that, but we shall see. I'm not going to be overly terrified when I see this card, even though it does have some good engine potential. I'm going to go down the list. This is Mythic Spoiler, which I really like. I like how they do their layout for the cards every set, and I typically like to go straight down, although these are multicolors at the top. Next, we have Beza. Well, I forgot we could do this here. Um, What is it? Boom. All right. We got Beza, the Bounding Spring, 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 white, legendary elemental elk, mythic. When Beza, the Bounding Spring enters, create a treasure token if an opponent controls more lands than you. You gain 4 life if an opponent has more life than you. Create two 1/1 bluefish creature tokens if an opponent controls more creatures than you. And you draw a card if an opponent has more cards in hand than you. It's a 4/5. Okay, I mean for 4 mana, a 4/5 is not bad. I mean for all that value, like it's incidental because you just play the card, and if any of these conditions or all of these conditions are going, you get value off of that. So I think Base is really solid of a card. It's mono white, so you can kind of stick to one color when you pick it. I would first pick Base of the Bounding Spring in a lot of cases. I think it will play well for me. Once again, these are my initial impressions. Um, Once the set comes out, we get to really play with them and see what's going on, see the strategies. Of course, things could change. Next, we have Season of the Burrow, 5 mana, 3 generic, and 2 white. Sorcery, Mythic. Choose up to 5. I believe these are paw prints worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. At first, I didn't really understand this card, but you can choose like the mode that has two twice with the mode that has one, or you can choose the mode that has three once with the mode that has two. You can mix and match. So essentially, the first paw mode is create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. This set has a lot of different creatures in it, so rabbit might be relevant. Two paw, two paw prints. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. And then 3 paw prints. Return target permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. So this is another card I feel has a lot of value, simply because it has all these modes on it. Say for instance you draw this, top of your deck. Worst case scenario, you're getting 5/1/1 rabbit creature tokens that can block, that can attack, or you're getting, a 3 drop from your graveyard with an indestructible counter on it. I believe there's enchantments in white this set. Maybe you get it in the yard, you can replay it or something like that, or you just get a really good ETB trigger creature. Who knows? You can pay the two paw prints, exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. I never like to give my opponent an extra card. This set has a mechanic called gift, where you can gift your opponent an additional benefit um, to activate extra benefit for yourself. I don't like it at all. But anyways, so that would be one I wouldn't really want to go for. Exile target non-land permanent. Although you can do it twice. This one spell takes out two things. I digress. I would rather play a cheaper spell that takes out one thing or something than to give my opponent a card. But overall, I like this card. I would probably this is another card I would probably first pick if it popped up for me. And I think that's going to be how a lot of the multicolor, I mean, sorry, single color mythics will be because they're easy to play. They're easy to splash and whatnot. So you probably hear me say that about a lot of these mythics up here. Oh, go back. There we go. I was just trying to make it bigger. Giggity. All right, here we go. Next, we have Warren War Leader, 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 white, crab creature, rabbit knight. I was gonna call it a crabbit. Has offspring 2. You may pay an additional 2 as you cast the spell. If you do, when this creature enters, create a 1/1 token copy of it. And whenever you attack, you get to choose one, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token that's tapped and attacking, and attacking creatures or attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is another just solid slam dunk mythic. 4 mana, 4/4. Then if you play it for 6, you get two of these guys. And the reason that's really significant is because if you have two of these attacking, you're creating two rabbits a turn, or you're creating one rabbit a turn plus buffing your team, or buffing your team by two. All in the value of this one card. So I think there's a lot of value here. Another just slam dunk design, I think. Just overall, this is a great card. Sometimes I've seen mythics in sets, and I'm like, why is this card even mythic? There's no upside. There's nothing good about this card, and I cannot necessarily say that about this particular spell here or any of the ones I've seen. Next, we have Caretaker's Talent, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a white. It is a enchantment class. Gain a next level as a sorcery to add its ability. So, whenever one or more tokens you control enter the battlefield, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Cool. You play this for 3. Every creature you start playing gets you a card. That's not bad. When this becomes level 2, create a token that's a token. Create a token that's a copy of target token you control. Another solid spell, you know. If you have a really, really good creature out there, boom, you're getting all the value. Then for 4, creature tokens you control get +2/+2. I don't necessarily like, I mean, it's fine. If you do have a lot of tokens, if you end up in rabbits, I guess it's great. But I like the other two abilities a lot more. How I feel about this, when you first play it for 3, you're not getting any value. Um, I've been, kind of listening out, keeping my ear to the ground. I think this is going to be a pretty aggressive set. I've heard someone say, I believe Nikolai Bolas, that this is like a turn one set um, where you want to really have your early game creatures to put on the board and just take off. This is something where you're going to have to take off a whole turn, and you're not going to want to play it late either, right? You're not going to want to put this out on turn 6 or 7. You might be out of the game then. Turn 3, you're taking off a whole turn to try to recoup the value. So it's not something I would first pick. I may give it a try if it happens to just float to me, but I don't feel like it's something that's just like game ending to any degree. So I would probably pick this like close to last. I'm not really ranking them necessarily with a or numeric scale. It's more so just like how much value I want to pick this card for now. I think I might rank them more so later, but once again, this is kind of the initial impressions and whatnot. Next, we have Valley Quest Caller. It's a. Oh, let me bring that up. Uh, it's Valley Quest Caller, 2 mana, one generic, and a white creature rabbit warrior. Whenever one or more other rabbits, bats, birds, and or mice you control enter the battlefield, you scry one. Other rabbits, bats, birds, and mice you control get +1/+1. It's a 2/3. It's also rare. I think this is another just that's great design. The card we just covered was a rare as well, but this is a rare I would definitely rank over Caretaker's Talent, for instance. Um, 2/3. It's a Rabbit Warrior, so it fits its own qualification. So say you happen to get two of these, they're gonna buff each other, and then I think from there you can take off with a pretty solid. I would probably want to go rabbit deck, but depending on the bats, birds, and mice I get, maybe I will want to use them. I think this is really good and solid. Um, Maybe even first pickable if you see it, because it's a 2 mana card that has so much value to it, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna get cards that fit um, that role. I think frogs I see, turtles, or a few things that's not really among those, but I guess these are all the mammals with some birds. I don't know. I like this card a lot. I would probably first pick it if I wanted to go in a direction like that. What up, King Cassandra? Thank you for pulling up to the stream. Hope you're doing well. Next, we have Essence Chandler, 2 mana, one white, one generic creature bat cleric, also a rare. As long as you've lost life this turn, Essence Chandler has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, you put a 1/1 counter on Essence Chandler, and when Essence Chandler dies, you put its counters on target creature you control. It's a 2/1. Another solid rare. Like, man, these are slam dunks. Um, 2 mana, 2/1. The one's kind of iffy, but all in all, if you've lost life this turn, I don't know how you would do that. Essentially, because this doesn't have flash, so you can't wait for your opponent to deal damage and then play this. So somehow, some way, you have to lose life. Maybe there's a land that does it. Maybe there's a creature that does it. But some way, somehow, you'll have to figure out how to get that to maximize the value on this card. But even if you don't get the flying and vigilance, whenever you gain life, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So that's another thing you will want to look out for is how to ping this up. And then when it dies, you shift all those counters to another creature. Another slam dunk, another first pickable card in my book. First control to do it. Next, we have Jackdaw Savior, 3 mana, two generic, and a white creature bird cleric, flying. Whenever Jackdaw Savior or another creature you control with flying dies, return another target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. I love that these rares are ridiculous. I was gonna say rare ridiculous. I guess I should have, but that would have been ridiculous. But you get a couple of these, and these little guys we were talking about a moment ago, all of a sudden become, just bombs right here. So I really like Jackdaw Savior, and it has flying automatically. The rares in white are really looking solid so far. Next, we have Whiskervale Forerunner. Forerunner, 4 mana, three generic and a white creature, mouse bard with Valiant, another new mechanic. Whenever Whisker Veil Forerunner becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with a mana value 3 or less from among them. You may put it on the battlefield if it's your turn. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, you put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a 3/4. Okay. One moment. All right. So I think this card is pretty solid. Valiant is cool because it's anything that can target it. So if you have a creature that puts counters on it, it becomes a target. I like this card a lot because it can get your creatures from the graveyard. So white, for instance, in my head is already shown to be like a low cost creature deck where you get a lot of value from your monocolor rares and get some recursion. We're seeing back to back spells where they're like, hey, we're going to give you the ability to get your spells back. Granted, we're still in the rare slot here. We're seeing a lot of good mono white rares. So I'm gonna keep that in mind when I'm playing. There's a lot of graveyard recursion here, which will be great because you're gonna want to attack in. People are definitely gonna want to kill your creatures. I would play this Whisker Veil Forerunner and see if I would have ways to trigger this Valiant on my turn like as much as possible. Oops. All right. Starfile Invocation, 5 mana, 3 generic to white sorcery. Rare, you can gift a card, another new mechanic. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast the spell. If you do, they draw a card before its other effects. I do not like that. I do not want to gift a card, gift a creature, or gift what else? What's the other option? A card, a creature. There's one more, I believe, that you can gift. I don't want to do it. But this is a board wipe. Destroy all creatures. If the gift was promised, return a creature card put into your graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. Okay, I think this is another slam dunk type card. It's good. You can just destroy all creatures. But what strategy are you going to want to do that? If this is a pretty aggressive set and you're being the aggressor, when are you going to want to activate this? Granted, it can get you one of your best things back, and I guess maybe if you're playing a deck that can get cards back from the yard, you're okay with this. Because you can destroy all creatures, get back something like, I don't know, the Jackdaw Savior, and then bring back, uh, well, I guess Jackdaw when it died. Oh, yeah, I don't know. There's going to be some interesting graveyard interactions coming up from White, which is crazy. All right. Next, we have Don's Truce, a 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 white instant. Gift a card. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast a spell, blah, blah, blah. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until end of turn. Eh, I'm not going to be gifting the card too often, I don't think. I'm interested to see how many people really be gifting cards like that. Like how many times my opponent's going to gift me a spell just to pull off something cool. Mm, I don't know. This isn't, in my opinion, something first pickable, and I think that's how I'm gonna go about trying to rate my cards going forward. It's like, okay, how important would this card be for me to pick first above other cards? And this just isn't it. This is okay. If you end up with it, it's fine. So it's like, okay, not the most exciting. Next, we have Salvation Swan, a 4 mana, 3 generic, and a white creature bird cleric. It has flash and flying. When it or another bird you control enters, exile up to one target creature you control without flying. Return it to the battlefield under its owner control with a flying counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. It's a 3/3. So I love that it has flash. I love that it's a bird. I think it's going to fit the conditions for a lot of spells or whatnot, and it can bounce one of your things. So if one of your things has a good ETB, you're gonna get that value again. Just imagine you have your perfect world, perfect world. You have your Beza out, you bounce that, get more value out of it. What else would you want to bounce so far? I don't think anything. So we have to keep an eye out on if there's anything we want to bounce, especially recursively, because this still triggers on other birds as well. So solid card. I don't think it's like a first pick, but it could be. I would think this card is pretty high in value. To get you in a direction, it can get you in the bird direction. It can get you in the bounce deck direction. So I think it just depends. I think I'm gonna start rating things like, I don't know, first, second, and third pickables. Like if I was seeing it with another grouping, like how I would see it in my head. I think this would at least be in that first to second pick range, not something I'm just like putting on the back burner. Next we have, oops. Next we have Jolly Gerbils. Do not judge me. Do not judge. I know I just said Gerbils because I'm thinking Gerber baby, Gerber, Jolly Gerbils. They did that on purpose. It's a 2 mana, one generic, and a white creature hamster citizen. Are gerbils hamsters? Whenever you give a gift, draw a card. It's a 2/3. Okay, we're getting into that uncommon range now. It's a 2 mana, 2/3, which I think is solid. Um, if you need to, ah, I really think they could have did this card some justice by making it a mouse or a rat or something instead of a hamster. Like if a hamster is not a gerbil, they could have easily just made this a some other kind of rodent. I don't really like the ability either because I don't want to give a lot of gifts. So whenever you give a gift, you draw a card. I don't want to do that. Like I said, it's a 2 mana 2/3, which is solid, but it's just okay. I would not really. I probably wouldn't pay much attention to this card. I would look for other cards like removal, interaction, just overall better spells in general. I think this is one of my least favorite cards of the day because it's supposed to give you value, but you're giving your opponent value. No, thank you. Next, we have Seasoned Warren Guard, one white mana creature rabbit warrior, uncommon. Whenever Seasoned Warren Guard attacks while you control a token, Seasoned Warren Guard gets 2/0 until end of turn. It's a 1/2. So I think this is solid. This is something to get you going early. It's a rabbit, so if it's that condition, rabbits are going to be producing tokens. So as soon as you get those tokens going, boom, you have a 1 mana 3/2. So if you have multiples of these, you have like two of these, two 1 mana 3/2 beat sticks. So I think there's a lot of value here. Um, I would probably put this more in the second pick range for me. I would look at other spells, see if there's something else I could really do, but that could be inaccurate. If I've learned anything from the other sets, the one drops can really make or break a game. I'm really nervous in those early parts of the game, like turn one and turn two, to see what my opponent's coming with, especially if I'm not playing anything myself until turn two or turn three. So, where I might think this is the pick two card, something I would choose something else over. Somebody else might pick this as a pick one, and they start getting that value early because they're like, oh, I'm gonna get this and maybe a second copy and start building up a very aggressive board. So I would put this as the a first to second pick range for me. And yeah, I think the pick range for me is going to be a way better system for rating these cards because that's really what I care about. I don't really care about necessarily like a number scaling because you can see the number scaling and just like but I really care about like what are my chances of really considering this card as a pick. Next we have Harvest Right Harvest Right Host, 3 mana, 2 generic and a white, rabbit creature rabbit citizen. Uncommon. Whenever Harvest Right Host or another rabbit you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then draw a card if this is the second time this ability has resolved. So this is a 3 mana 3/3 that really wants you to be playing rabbits. Um, Rabbits make tokens, So, for instance, if you're able to play this and you're able to get a few rabbits going, a couple rabbits to come into the board at the same time or whatnot, you get to draw a card off of this. So, and you're, pumping your board. I think that's solid all around. Not, I wouldn't say first pickable. I would say more like second pick to me. I think it's really solid. A second pick would be like a B or something. We're building the plane while we're flying it, as one of the greats once said. Next, we have Mouse Trapper, 3 mana, 2 generic and a white creature, Mouse Soldier, uncommon, with Flash. Also has Valiant. Whenever a Mouse Trapper becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time, tap target creature an opponent controls. It's a 3/2. Okay, recursive value, boom. Um, I think Valiant probably pairs best with creatures that trigger it. So, for instance, the one we just saw, it pertains to rabbits, for instance. But you can use this 1/0 ability on Mouse Trapper and still get that value. So that's a lot to consider amongst the abilities. I cannot wait to see these synergies at work. Next, we have Drift Gloom Coyote, 5 mana, 3 generic, 2 white. Creature elemental coyote, uncommon. When it enters, exile target creature and opponent controls until Drift Gloom Coyote leaves the battlefield. If that creature had power 2 or less, put a 1/1 counter on Drift Gloom Coyote. 3/4. Okay. Um 5 mana is kind of steep. 5 mana is kind of steep for me. But I think this is a solid card. I would hate to just be absolutely like dismissive of it because for me to be a kind of a pick one, you need to be easy to play, and I most likely would want like multiples of you if I could get it. Uh, this right here, I'm not gonna want 5 of these in my deck or 4 of these in my build, so it instantly drops to like a 2 for me. I think it's I think it's okay though. Like I said, first picks, like a first pick card, I probably want as many copies as I can get because it's that good. This one's good, but the mana cost kind of holds it back. So I'd rate it as like a pick two. Next, we have Builder's Talent. 2 mana, one generic and a well, 2 mana, one generic and a white. When it enters, create a 0/4 white wall creature with Defender. You can pay a white whenever one or more non-creature, non-land permanents you control enters. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Okay, that's one way to trigger Valiant as much as you want, right? Whenever one or more non-creature, non-land permanents. So it has to be like what? An artifact, an enchantment? Eh, I guess that's not the best. And for 5 mana, when this becomes level 3, return target non creature, non land permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield. There's a lot of returning from the graveyard to the battlefield this set. That might pair well with something like black um, or green that both like to put things into their graveyards. That's interesting. This isn't a high pick for me. Putting out for 2 mana, putting out a 0/4 walls okay. For 3 mana for this ability, sinking into it, I'm not excited. And for 5 mana, that's really, really expensive. If I got this for free, I would try it, but it would not be a first or even second pick for me. I wouldn't really think of this too much. It would be more so after that third pick for me. Next, we have Star Charter, 4 mana, 3 generic and a white, creature, bird, cleric, uncommon, flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, this is recursive, right? So, what if you gained or lost life? So, either one, look at the top 4 cards, reveal one, with power 3 or less, put into your hand. That's really solid. It's flying. It's a 4 mana, 3/1 flyer. instep. If you were able to pull off any of those things, boom, it's okay. Um, 4 mana flyer is not bad, especially 3/1 with some upside. It's not immediate upside unless you do have things in the yard, but this could really help you take over the game. If your creatures have been dying all game, they're in the yard, sitting there, ready to get back. Boom, here you go. You have a life gain trigger. Here you go. So I like it. Probably second pick for me because I do like that it's flying as well. But it depends on what's in the pack. Second and a half pick. Next we have Dewdrop Cure, 3 mana, 2 generic and a white. Sorcery, uncommon, gift a card. Return up to 2 target creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the gift was promised, instead return up to 3 target creatures with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Uh, okay. This is still kind of a this is kind of a pick two, pick three. Like there's gonna be so many other things I think I'd rather do. Like this could be a creature card. There's other creatures that bring things back from the yard you want to trigger and whatnot. I already don't want to gift a card anyways. So this would be a card like pick three. If I already have my one, twos and whatnot going on, a lot of them especially, maybe with some Valiant. I know I want to attack in. I know I want to be aggressive. This is going to be a slam dunk. But off the just picking this first, I don't think so. Picking it second, I don't think so. You're gonna want your own removal. You're gonna want your own interactions, and I think there's gonna be enough creatures in white so far where you can recur your creatures already. So I would play this. I think it's playable. So I would put it at three. Maybe I should add, pick four as getting into that unplayable range because yeah, yeah, it's okay. I think somebody's going to pull a blowout, but it's not something I would want to have early. Next, we have Feather of Flight, 2 mana, 1 generic and a white, enchantment aura, uncommon. Flash, enchant creature. When Feather of Flight enters, draw a card. Enchanted creature gets +1/0 and has flying. Meh. That's all I can say. Meh. Draws you a card, gives your creature flying. That creature dies, then this does nothing. Or cards like that when you can just get blown out by them, I'm not a big fan. I'll probably not pick that. I'll probably pick it like pick four or something, pick five. How many picks are in a pack? I think that's what if I can think of how many, is it like 16? That's what I could base the rating off of, or at least top eight or something. Next, we have Bright Blade Stoat. 2 mana, 1 generic and a white, creature weasel soldier, uncommon, first strike, lifelink, 2/2. This is what you're gonna want. I think this is gonna be actually like first pickable. I want as many copies of Bright Blade Stoat as I can possibly get. First strike, lifelink. That first strike ability is going to be so beneficial. There's going to be times where your opponent is just going to get blown out by that, by you pumping this card. And the lifelink on it is going to trigger so many things so far in white. I don't know the other things in the other colors yet, but in white specifically, if you gain life in certain cases, you get an added ability. I think this is really good. It's really, really cheap at 2 mana. I would probably pick this over the 5 mana mythic that does all those little things. Because once again, this has so much utility to it early in the game, and I would want to play multiple copies of it. Next, we have Mabel's Metal, 2 mana, 1 generic and a white, instant, uncommon. Target creature gets 2/2 until end of turn. Up to one other target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I think this is like a pick three. If you see that, can't even say pick three. Probably had to put this at pick four, pick five. This is something you just play to kind of trigger your Valiant, to, kind of bring your build together once it's built. But I don't think it's something you'll want to get like pick one, pick two, something like that. More so kind of like, okay, cool, let's finish building this build. This is gonna slide in. I'll say like pick five, pick six, even playable. just not something you want to get grab early. In my opinion, it could be a blowout card because it pumps two creatures. We'll just have to see. Next, we have Flowerfoot Swordmaster, one white mana, creature, mouse, soldier, uncommon, has offspring too. Offspring, I like it a lot. If it has offspring, it just makes a copy of the same creature and it's a 1/1. I think this is really this is really great mechanic in my opinion. Copy a creature on the creature, thumbs up, thumbs up. Has Valiant. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, mice you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So this is another one drop 1/2. Let's look and see. Was that other one drop a mouse? I believe it was. No, it was a rabbit. So this is the mouse little guy. This is something I would probably still consider picking early. Honestly, maybe even a pick one for me because of that offspring mechanic. You can play it for three, and you're gonna have two of these bodies already. Offspring is looking to be some one of my favorite mechanics so far. It also has Valiant, so if you're able to start getting recursive triggers, whenever this creature becomes the target spell or ability, the other one or mice, whatnot, they both get 1/0. So these are one mana two-twos. Um, and if the other one becomes triggered, they're one mana 3/2. So it's a similar situation to the rabbit. I think this is a great card. I would probably pick it early just to go and start getting my strategy going in mice. Next, we have Parting Gust, two white mana, instant. Gift a tapped fish. Not necessarily the worst thing. I think it's a little better than gifting them a card. But at the same time, it's an additional blocker that can hold off a turn of you winning, give them a turn to try to recover. And I just do not like the gift mechanic. Exile target non-token creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter on it at the beginning of next end step. So this is really bad to me. This is not good because first off, it says non-token. If it said just straight up creature, then you could exile tokens and then not have to have the negative consequences of the 1/1 counter when the creature ETBs again because the creature's gone for good. But they kind of covered for that. And then if you don't want the creature to come back, you have to give them a fish. Once again, I think that's just a little too much. I'm probably not going to play this card if I can help it. I will look for any other option because this really effectively just helps your opponent. It saves you a turn. It saves you for one turn, but then helps your opponent drastically. Next, we have Hop to It, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a white. Create 3/1/1 rabbit creature tokens. Okay, this is something I like a lot. I would run two, three of these in my build, and I could be wrong. I still got to see what the entire set has to offer. What was that other 2 mana? He was a weasel, so he's kind of irrelevant to anything, I believe. He's just a weasel. But oh, the rabbits. Um, the rabbits have a lot of synergy, I believe, with each other, and I would be willing to gamble this card is gonna be good. Um, I'll probably pick it like pick one, pick two. It creates a board instantly. They have to deal with it. You get some free blockers, you get some extra attacks. You can be aggressive. This card has a lot of utility to it. Next, we have Sheer Force, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a white. Creature Bird Knight, uncommon. Flying, double strike, vigilance. It's a 1/3, effectively a 2/3 or whatnot. I think this is okay. 3 mana, 1/3 with double strike, flying, and vigilance. It's solid. Um, um I guess my grievance is they could have gave it Valiant, which would have made it way more exciting. Um, they could even slap Gift on here. I wouldn't have liked it, but with everything we've seen, this could have used a little bit more upside in this slot. I don't think this is going to be a card that I'm just like terrified of unless they're able to put counters on it. Um, yeah, you really just got to pump this up to really be a nuisance. So I would probably pick it like pick three. Really, actually pick two, maybe because it's a flyer for three. But I still think oh, I still kind of think it's not the greatest. Like, would I pick it over Hop to it? Maybe, which is crazy. The evaluation of these two cards, because this is three, basically three bodies on one, which this is only one. They deal with one threat here. You still have two other problems. This threat's just a little bit better. So I probably would still go with Hop to it, even though my bias leans me towards Flyers. Next, we have Repel Calamity, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a white. Instant, destroy target creature with power or toughness 4 or greater. I wouldn't be first picking this. It's going to be a dud in too many situations, I believe. If you happen to get it, run a copy or two. But otherwise, you're kind of just waiting on them to pay to play the big threat. And I don't know about anybody else. I'm done being a damsel. I'm done kind of just waiting on them to do stuff and blase blase. I'm really trying to be as aggressive as I can, develop my board, develop my strat, and move forward. So that's gonna be my strategy going into the set this season is really being the threat instead of always trying to have the answer for their threats. Now having the answer is important. And if this said like destroy target creature for two, no brainer. But that tough what I guess power or toughness, you're gonna be waiting. This is a turn two, right? You're gonna be waiting until like turn four to even play it. And that's if they even have creatures with that power or toughness. We'll see how aggressive the power and toughness is this set, but I'm not gonna be first picking that. Next, we have Intrepid Rabbit, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a white creature rabbit soldier. This is one of the commons. We're getting into the commons now. Okay. Offspring 1. You may pay an additional 1 as you cast this. If you do, create a 1/1 copy of it. That's great. The Offspring we've been seeing have been Offspring 2. So for 4 mana, you're getting two of these. When this creature enters, target creature you control gets 1/1 until end of turn. So it's so this triggers Valiant. That's for sure. Um, it doesn't do much after the initial effect. So it's gonna pump for a turn. Maybe you do it twice, 2/2 to creatures trigger Valiant twice. That's where you're gonna really get your value out of this card. Otherwise, it's just a 3 mana 3/2 um, that brings out a 1/1. Actually, no, there's still a lot to this card, even though it's just for that turn. That could be great. That could help you win the game. I'm not gonna pick this highly. I would probably pick this like pick three, pick four, but I think it's playable. Next, we have Life Creed Duo, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a white. Creature, bat, bird, common, flying. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain a life. It's a 1/2. Solid. Even at common level, solid creature. 2 mana, 1/2. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain a life. We've already seen there's a number of creatures that care about that thing, about life gain or life loss. It's a bat bird, so it fits two creature combinations. It can be buffed by other things. I think it's solid. Definitely pick two, pick three for me. Next, we have Brave Kin Duo, 1 white creature, rabbit, mouse. You can pay one, target creature gets +1/+1, so in turn activate only as a sorcery. This is a 1/1. So if you are in Valiant, this is going to trigger your Valiant every single turn. This is your Valiant enabler. Um, if you already have a few Valiant cards, you're going to want to run this. And I think that's another thing to consider when you're evaluating your spells. Now, is this a pack one, pick one? I don't know. I don't think so. This is more so when you see you have Valiant going, you see you have some flyers or whatnot, boom, you can get some extra damage across the board. Otherwise, this is just meh. I'll probably put it at a pick two. No, 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 no. Like a really like a pick three, pick four, because it's playable, but you kind of want to know what you're doing already. I love this name, Crumb and Get It. One white mana, instant, common, gift of food. That was the other. You can gift a food, you can gift a creature, or you can gift a card. I think food is. They're all bad. They're all bad. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If the gift was promised, that creature also gains indestructible. It's gonna trigger your Valiant for sure. Um, if you need indestructible that desperately, should you even be attacking? I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be using this on defense either, and I don't want to use this and give my opponent a food. I probably wouldn't pick this unless it's just this will just be passed to me. But I do love the name. Sonar Strike, 2 mana, one generic and a white, instant. When it deals no, Sonar Strike deals 4 damage to target attacking, blocking, or taps creature. You gain 3 life if you control a bat. Uh so I think this is more versatile than the first one a little bit because you can kind of gauge block damage off that too. Say you know the creature's 6 damage, you have two on the board, you block the two, and then boom with this. I think it's okay. Not first pickable, of course, but it is okay. I'm trying to get through cards as smooth as I can because there's a ton of them. Because I actually would love to do a draft today. Next, we have Rabbit Response. 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 white, instant. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. If you control a rabbit, scry 2. 4 mana pump spell. It's okay, but not exciting. It's something that will have to be pretty much passed to me, and then I'll have to consider if I even have a slot in my build for it. Banishing Light, everyone knows that. 3 mana, 2 generic, and a white, enchantment. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. So far, this has been the best white removal I've seen. I will play multiple copies of this because this is going to deal with your little threats. It's going to deal with your big threats. And it exiles them. They'll have to have a way to blow up enchantments to really get it back. And that's possible, but I doubt many of your opponents will be doing so. Palliated Provisioner, 5 mana, 4 generic and a white, creature, bird, scout, flying. When it enters, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control without flying. It's a 3/4. I wouldn't necessarily want to have to run this. 5 mana is that's a lot of commitment, and for what this is providing, I don't know if it's enough for me to care. Like I would probably pick it last. All right, Warren Elder, 2 mana, 1 generic and a white, creature, rabbit, cleric. Pay 4 creatures you control, get +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a 2/2. Eh, I mean, this could be good. You play your 1 drop, 2 drop. Play this on turn two. On turn three, you play out that guy that the card that makes you 3 rabbits, and on turn four you're swinging in what, one, two, 5 creatures. That's at least two, so you're swinging in like 10 damage on turn four. It's not the worst. Warren Elder, I would probably give it a try. Not first pickable, but something I would definitely at least try to slam into my build if I could. Next, we have Nettle Guard, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a white. Creature, mouse, soldier. Valiant. When it becomes target of spell for the first time each turn, it gets 0/2. You can pay one, sacrifice to destroy target artifact or enchantment. I think this might have some play. It's a 3/1. So it's a 2 mana 3/1, which oftentimes can be great. It's a mouse soldier, so it might get buffed by like other mice gets plus this or plus that. Has Valiant to kind of help its toughness a bit. So overall, I think this is a solid card, especially to be common. I would at least play it. I would probably pick it like if I knew I was going into you know aggro mice, it would definitely be a pick three for me. Next, we have Wax Wayne Witness, 4 mana, 3 generic and a white. Creature, Bat Cleric, Flying Vigilance. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, Wax Wayne Witness gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And it's a 2/4. Meh. It would pretty much have to get passed to me. Flying and Vigilance, okay. 2/4. And it can be a 3/4 if you gain or lose life. And it's Vigilant. But 4 mana flyers they're just not the top of my list. They don't often play that exciting. I believe the other one had Flash. I could if I'm wrong about that, I apologize. If this had Flash, I think I'd be way more excited because I could hold up spells and play. Next, we have Thistledown Players, 3 mana, 2 generic and a white. Creature Mouse Bard. Whenever it attacks, untap target non-land permanent. It's a 3/3. Solid. Mouse Bard. Swing in. You can untap one of your creatures. I mean, it's effectively vigilant. You can swing in with this. Untap itself is vigilant. And this is exactly what your aggro deck wants, is vigilance. So maybe the Bat Cleric I was just discussing is better than I was suggesting. Next, we have Carrot Cake, 2 mana, 1 generic and a white. Artifact food. When it enters the battlefield and when you sacrifice it, create a 1/1 rabbit creature token and scry 1. You can pay 2, sacrifice it, gain 3 life. So you play it, you get a 1/1 rabbit and scry for 2. Solid. You sacrifice it, you gain 3 life, and you get another rabbit. So this is 2 mana, make 2 rabbits, gain 3 life. This isn't bad. This is probably a pick 2. This is a really solid card if you're going to go aggro rabbits. And for me, it's kind of between rabbits and mice, but I really feel rabbits have more support in white than the mice. Creatures get 1/1. I guess the mice just aren't mice specific. Mice has pumps, gives rabbits more tokens. But you can always have a little combination of all. Yeah, I think rabbits have just a lot. Like whenever Harvest Right host or another rabbit you control enters, target creature you control gets 1/0 until end of turn, then draw a second card. That paired with the 3 rabbits, oh my goodness, that's going to be solid. But how aggressive is the format really going to be? We're going to have to see once we read these other cards. I'm going to take a quick voice break. It's been a long time since I had to do a review. And overall, I'm just going to reflect on some of these white spells and get back to it. I'm gonna come back with blue. So stay tuned. All right, I am back. So I took a moment just to kind of reflect on some of the spells we've seen so far, and I kind of just came down to it. For white, I think the standout card for me is Valley Quest Caller. 2 mana, 2/3. Whenever or one or more other rabbits, birds, bats, or mice you control enter, you scry. That's so much value. You're gonna be looking at top of your deck, getting rid of lands or putting lands there, whatever you need to keep your triggers going. And then other rabbits, bats, birds, and mice you control get 1/1. This supports all the other ones. So say you get this and you don't necessarily end up in rabbits, you still get to get the benefit of the card in a lot of situations outside of what squirrels, lizard, whatnot. I think Valley Quest Collar is great. I think it's probably the best card for in white for limited because it's just so cheap to play. It synergizes with so many decks. I think it's a slam dunk. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before I continue with the set review. So when we get into blue, we're going to be discussing Raw Crackling Wit up top here. 4 mana, two generic, blue and a red. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a loyalty counter on Raw Crackling Wit. That's so strong. That's so strong. +1, create a 1/1 blue and red auto creature token with prowess. That is incredibly good. -3, draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards. That's really good too. So for 4 mana, you can draw 3 cards, discard 2. What? And -10, draw 3 cards, you get an emblem. Instants and sorcery spells you cast have storm. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each spell cast before this turn. Hmm. I think this is great. I mean, I went over Helga earlier. Raw Crackling Wit is just boom. I see it. I want it. I'm playing it. And I'm probably going to be in blue red otters. This is a clear signal to try to be like a spells matter build. Like that's incredible. This is I might be saying it a little too early, but this might be the best card in the set. I know it's a planeswalker and they're typically really good, but this is just great all around. It's great early, it's great late. It draws you cards, it makes creatures that scale up at that for it synergizing with the deck it's supposed to synergize with. This is crazy good. Oof. Pack one, pick one. Like I said, I wouldn't want to go into blue, white, red, but just going into blue, red, fairly easy 2 color combo. And granted, you could not be open for blue, red, but you're gonna be open for at least blue or red. You'll make it work somehow and just splash it however you need to. Raw's a slam dunk. Next we have Eluge, the Shoreless Sea, 4 mana, one generic, 3 island, 3 blue. Legendary creature, elemental fish, mythic. Eluge's power and toughness are equal to the number of islands you control. And whenever it enters or attacks, put a flood counter on target island. If it's an island in addition to its other types, for as long as it has a flood counter on it, the first instant of sorcery spell you cast each turn costs blue or one generic less to cast for each land you control with a flood counter on it. It's XX. Well, star star. Um. Okay. I mean, hmm. Would I first pick this card as 4 mana? It comes down as maybe a 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, or it has the potential to even come down as a 1/1. Say you're in blue red, for instance, and you have 3 mountains and 1 island. This could be a 4 mana 1/1. But whenever it enters, it can make one of your islands. No, actually, it can't be because you need 3 blue to play it anyways. So you need 3 blue to play it. So it's going to come down at least as a 3/3, very least. The first, when it enters, it creates a flood counter. So you can play this and then play a 1 drop instant spell. Oh, and I mean, when it goes to your opponent's turn, you can do the same thing. Another 1 drop instant. So this synergizes with your prowess decks or spell matters decks because you get to play your spells effectively for free. Because even when it attacks, it puts a flood counter somewhere else, and then you can cast your 2 mana instance for free on each turn. This is excellent. This is excellent. I don't know if I would pick it over Ryle. I think I'm still a little bit, you know, hung up on Ryle. But this is another just with all things considered, yeah, why not? It would really need to be in like a almost mono blue deck, honestly, to get the most value out of it, where it's protected and have some spell matters things going on. But yeah, I think this is solid. I don't. I would call this a pick one. All of these are probably going to be pick ones across the top. I will. I can't wait to see how Eluch plays. It's going to be exciting. Next, we have Season of Weaving, 6 mana, 4 generic to blue sorcery mythic. Choose up to 5 paw prints worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. First paw print, draw a card. 2 paw prints, choose an artifact or creature you control. Create a token that's a copy of it. Huh. Huh. What? And then 3 paw prints, return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. There's some implications here. You feel me? There are some implications here. I know it's 6 mana, so that would be the thing. But say you pair this with, I don't know, what we were just talking about. Well, War Leader's good too. And that could be the case. But we could, just make a copy of Valley Quest Caller twice and draw a card. So pump all of our things by 3 instead of 1. For 6 mana, we make 2 copies of this and we draw a card. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's bad at all. I think it's even better with that than the War Leader because you get the immediate value of the +1/+1. That's pretty cool, and I'm sure there's gonna be other creatures. That was just a quick example of something I was like, that could be really good right there because you can do it twice because you can do 4 paw prints. Or you could return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. Oh, so you could make a token copy of something you control, then return each non-land non-token to his hand, effectively maybe clearing your opponent's board and keeping your things available. And at the end of the day, you could always just, I don't know, is this draw 5 cards for 6? What? Okay, because you can choose up to five power prints worth of notes. This is 6 mana, draw 5 cards. Just boom, no downside. No downside. Not draw the cards, discard, nothing like that. Yikes. Is this better than the Season of the Burrow? Wait, no. Well, Season of the Burrow makes 5 rabbits. Jesus, these are great. I don't even know how to evaluate it at the moment. It's just good. If played right. So, Season of the Burrow, I think is good regardless of the situation. You're gonna if you're in a situation where you're about to die, you can actually exile the permanent. Controller draws a card, but it saves you. Or if you're in a top deck war, boom, 5/1/1 creatures. This is kind of contingent on you having good creatures already, or you having to respond like a damsel, as I mentioned earlier, where you're returning all of the things, or um, simply trying to draw cards to get back in the game. So even though I'm very excited about the card and I would be eager to play it, I think there's just like an initial bias for the effects. Because if you're 6 mana drawing 5 cards, you might really be in bad shape because what were you doing the whole rest of the game? I almost wish, I almost wish this had target player draws a card. That way, you had the plus side of potentially milling your opponent out. But I digress. I don't think I would first pick it, but I would definitely want to play it. Next, we have Kitsa, Otterball Elite, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a blue. Legendary creature, Otter, Wizard, Mythic, Vigilance, Prowess. All the things, right? All the things. You can tap it, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay, loot effect. Pay 2, tap it, copy target instant or sorcery you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if Kitsa's power is 3 or greater. Huh. 2 mana, 1/3, Vigilance, Prowess. All solid. If you're going to be in a Spells Matter deck, this is definitely what you want to play. Mm, yeah, I don't know if I would want to first pick it, but I know it's good. You know what I'm saying? Vigilant and Prowess, they're going to have to kill it if they're trying to attack it on the ground. Um, I mean, it could be ran over. It's only a 1/3, but it does have the loot effect that kind of helps that utility. Now, I don't know about the copying because the power has to be 3. So if there's a way to put a counter on this outer or just give it a natural boost by some other card, it becomes great. And I don't oftentimes like cards like that. If it takes all this work for me to get the card to be good, when I only have a limited number of spaces in the deck, I might not even see this card, and this card isn't even supporting anything else. It's a bit frustrating. So it becomes difficult for me to evaluate this card. I probably wouldn't pick it highly unless I review the rest of the cards and see, like, oh man, is it otters, for instance, is going to be just that chef's kiss? I would probably pass this up unless it was just passed to me. Next, we have Storm Chaser's Talent. It's a blue enchantment class. Whenever it enters, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. Level 2, pay 3 and a blue. When it becomes level 2, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. That's solid. And pay 6. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a 1/1 blue red otter creature token with prowess. Okay. Wow. Okay. Uh, I would probably play a few of these. Say you have 3 of these in your deck. Are you upset? Are you upset to have a 1 mana 1/1 blue red otter with prowess in your blue red aggro deck? I don't think so. I don't think there's a time where you're just like, oh man, I'm having to play this dang 1/1 prowess creature on turn 1 in limited. And then when you get up to 4 mana, you get to return an instant or sorcery that you know you're going to be playing from your graveyard to your hand just to get to reuse it. And then if they don't get rid of this by the time you get to turn 6, and I would think this would be in a kind of a grindy kind of build anyways, you're just making otters off the top. What? Just by playing spells? Bro, I'm with it. I love this card. I, I would probably first pick this card because it's monocolored, easy to play, and it does all the things. The only thing it doesn't do is make me flyers. If it made me flyers, I would be even more impressed. Okay, Otter's looking good now. We got Valley Collar, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a blue. Creature, Otter, Wizard, Rare, Flash. I love my Flash creatures now. You may cast non-creature spells as though they had Flash. It makes all my non-creature spells have Flash. Jesus. Jesus, wizards. What are you doing? Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, birds, frogs, otters, and rats you control get 1/1 until end of turn, and you untap them. It's a 2/2. Hmm. Wow. Wow. There's gonna be some shenanigans in this set because you're gonna be trying to attack or whatnot, and all of a sudden, I mean, you're essentially going to have to wait until your opponents are tapped out to even attack. Because if you don't, there's a chance you just absolutely get blown out. You think you're getting a free attack and they play something like this and then play a one mana spell, the team gets pumped, the one mana spell does something, and they untap all their creatures. This is, oh man. What? And 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 what I'm starting to see like snowball effects. Because similar to the quest collar where when you see multiples, you're really happy. Same with this. You have two of these on the board. You play a non-creature spell after you've attacked. You, boom, pump your whole squad by 1/1. So it's hard to really evaluate some of the cards, especially when you're not in the heat of the draft. Because in draft, you do want to pick up your removal spells. Some of these cards, like if I can find me a 1, 2, or 3 mana removal spell, I would probably take above these cards. But that card right there, I think that's just a first pickable card, and it just synergizes with so many other creature types, and it does so much. It's just really, really good. It would have to be an excellent removal spell for me to pick something else over that. And I have not been playing a lot of blue lately, but blue's looking excellent. Next, we have Azure Beastbinder, 2 mana, one generic and a blue creature, rat, rogue, rare, vigilance, very, very important. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or greater. What? That's excellent. Oh my Jesus! I slammed this down. I'm swinging in. It's only one damage, but you're pumping, perhaps. Who knows? And it's vigilant, so it blocks for you well. I like that a lot. When it attacks up to one target artifact, creature, or planeswalker an opponent controls, loses all abilities until your next turn. If it's a creature, it also has base power and toughness 2/2 until your next turn. Ooh. Ooh. So it triggers itself, essentially. You can attack, and what it's going to do is turn the other creature into a 2/2 until the end of your next turn, and then the 2/2 can't attack into you, but you can still attack for one. This is an excellent design. Like, come on, I got to give a round of applause. That is an excellent design by Wizards. A rat rogue, it's cutting under you, dealing damage, but still being able to hold up defense. Love it. I love it. It's really good. I would probably first pick that too. I can't really say that. It doesn't really make a blowout or anything like that. And it doesn't synergize with nothing else but itself. But I just love the oomph behind this card. Next, we have Portent of Calamity. It is an blue X spell sorcery. Rare. Reveal the type X cards in your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Put the rest into your graveyard. You may cast a spell from among the exile cards without paying its mana cost if you exile 4 or more cards this way. What? Then put the rest of the exile cards into your hand. Huh. I think this is a gamble card. Like it gambles and it gives you the chance to hit big or lose big. And for that reason, I don't know if I necessarily want to run it. You have to have the 4 card types to get something for free. And for you to want something for free, you want it typically to be pretty broken. Not necessarily your 2 mana 2/2 with lifelink and vigilance. You get the value of getting the other cards in your hand, but you already probably sacrificed using all your lands that turn to play the spell. I don't think I'm gonna see this on the field a lot at all because I doubt I even play it. We'll see. Oh. Next we have Dour Port Mage, 2 mana, one generic and a blue creature frog wizard. Rare, whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, draw a card. Okay, so if you're able to bounce your things, you draw a card. And that's just recursive. There's no limit to it either. It's not once per turn. Pay two, one generic and blue tap, return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. I believe there's blue two drops that just draws you cards. So boom. 2 mana, 1/3 frog wizard. Dope. Not exciting. That's the thing about some of these spells is like, cool design. It's gonna give you value, but is it gonna win you the game? How much support do you want versus actual like damage dealing situations? Next, we have Wishing Well, 4 mana, 3 generic, and a blue artifact. Tap, put a coin counter on Wishing Well. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery with mana value equal to the number of coin counters on Wishing Well from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead, activate only as a sorcery. So you play this for 4, you gotta tap it. And you can play something 1 mana or less from your graveyard for free. Okay, the next turn you can play two for free. The next turn three. I think this is good. I think this might be playable. A lot of times I wouldn't think things like this would be playable, but it kind of does something on turn. The turn it comes out if you played a 1 mana instant or sorcery. So I had to see how those are shaping up. Next we have Mockingbird, a blue X creature bird bard with that's a rare, has flying. You may have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana you spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird in addition to its other types and it has flying. Okay, like I really like this. This kind of goes back to I'm still developing strats in my head, and I'm thinking of some of the easiest cards to like pair. So you're playing your Valley Quest Caller, right? Then you play your Mockingbird comes in as a copy of your Quest Caller, and now they're both getting buffed by one. Boom, I dig it. Then you play your your Season of Weaving, copy it twice. Boom, your whole board's pumped by 4. They better be playing your board wipe. Their board wipes. This is all head canon, but I would love it. And the thing, you may have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. That's good. That's you can copy your opponent's best thing, best ETB. Laughing at you? No, no, I'm laughing as you. Ooh wee, that's gonna be dangerous. I'll play it. Would I pick it? Pick one, maybe. Maybe it would have that attention because otherwise it's just a 1 mana 1/1. I think that's still solid. Next we have Thunder Trap Trainer. 2 mana, one generic and a blue creature otter wizard with offspring 4 to get the 1/1 copy. So you got to play, you know, pay 6 to play it. When this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land from among them, put in your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. It's a 2 mana 1/2 with offspring 4. That's pretty expensive, right? But for 6 mana, you get potentially 2 cards. I think this is weaker than I initially would think. Offspring 4 is a lot of mana. It's just a lot. It might be too much for this card to be really, really good. And then 1/2, they could have made it a 2/2. I think that would have been fine. Especially if they wanted to keep the Offspring 4. I mean, as a 2 mana 1/2 that potentially just nabs you a play, I guess. But it's only a 1/2. I'm not going to be afraid of a 1/2. Is it just there for defense? Got to speculate on that a bit more. Next, we have Kidnap. 4 mana, 2 generic, and 2 blue. Enchantment aura. You can gift a card. No, thank you. Enchant creature. Enters battlefield. Tap enchanted creature. If the gift wasn't promised, put 3 stun counters on it. You control enchanted creature. Thank you. Yes. Yes. All right. This is a removal spell, right? For 4 mana. And not only a removal spell, it's kind of a 4 mana take their best thing spell. Granted, you have the stun counters on the creature. You still took their best thing. If you're still playing 3 turns later, they're not happy about that. A lot of cases, I doubt I would want to gift the card unless it may be like I just don't know. Unless it's a really really good creature. Otherwise, I would just let it be tapped and have it on my side of the board. I like this card a lot. I will try to play it. 4 mana is a lot though. That's a lot of investment just to remove something, but it also, like I said, puts it on your board. So, yeah. Next, we have Spell Gyre, 4 mana, 2 generic, 2 blue, instant. Choose one, counter target spell, or surveil two, draw 2 cards. Meh. If I get to play it, I play it. I don't think it's too exciting. There's other things I would rather be doing on turn 4. Eddie Merc Crab, 7 mana, 5 generic, 2 blue, creature elemental crab. Flash, the spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. Ooh, wee, blue spells. Blue spells, blue spells, blue spells. Flash, and it costs 1 less for each instant and sorcery in the yard. Honestly, I'm feeling like blue white spells right now. That's kind of what I'm itching for. Man, put a lot of rabbits on the board. I don't know, and just do something like this. What it enters tapped if it's not your turn. I think that's fine. And when it enters tapped up to 2 target creatures, this is excellent. This is ooey. So there's a world where this costs 2 mana. And this isn't like, oh, you gotta exile something from your graveyard. Blah 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 blah. Nope. Nope. Those instants and sorceries in your graveyard fuel as many copies of these as you can possibly get. Man, oh man, if you have the right low drop instants and sorceries, turn one, turn two, turn three. So what's the soonest you can get this out? You play a 1 mana instant or sorcery on turn one, turn two, awesome. Three. Uh, so on turn four, you would have 4 mana with three instants or sorceries in the yard. So that would be enough because that would be two, yeah, three instants of sorceries. So 5 minus 3, so it's 2 generic, 2 blue. So if you're able to play your instant sorceries on turn one, two, and three, on turn four you can start putting out your Eddie Merc Crab, which I think is excellent. I would give that a try. That's going to be a fun card. This is probably going to pop up in standard as well. Next, we have Mind Whisker, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a blue. Creature Rat Wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil one. It has threshold as long as there are seven or more cards in your graveyard. Creatures your opponents control get -1/0. It's a 3/2. So, like with the discussion with the Eddie Merc Crab, this is kind of card that wants things in the yard. And if you already are in a deck that wants instants and sorcerers in the yard, that goes for your threshold. You get those cards in the yard, all of a sudden for 3 mana, all your creatures get -1, -0, which -0 isn't relevant, but the -1 is, in my personal opinion. This is an uncommon spell. You run, let's say, two of these, three of these. Now, let's say three, for instance, because this is 3 power. Now you're with threshold activated. Now you're in a situation where you can crash into your opponents. They can't do anything to you. I think that's really nice. Not sure if it's gonna come together, but I think it's cool. And a lot of time, that's what really counts. Next, we have Calamitous Tide, a 6 mana, 4 generic, 2 blue sorcery. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hand. Draw 2 cards. Then discard a card. Get this out of my face. Two creatures for 6 mana. No, no, thank you. That's just too much. Next, we have Gossip's Talent. 2 mana, one generic, and a blue enchantment class. Whenever a creature you control enters, surveil one. That's going to help your threshold a lot. I think this is not only help your threshold a lot. This could you could put little creatures in your yard and then get them back in white. I don't know. I'm starting to see a lot of potential going on, even in the uncommon and common sections. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked, so it's giving you some unblockability in your build. And then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may exile it, return it to battlefield under your control, give you some ETBs. Huh. Huh. I like that a lot. For 2 mana though, I feel like you're gonna want to be putting out a creature. How much I'm gonna want to play this card, I don't know yet, but I do think it has some one copy utility. And one copy utility don't really get like first, second, or third pickable situations to me. Next we have Long River's Pool, 2 blue, instant, gifts a card. Counter target creature spell if the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. For sure. Don't know if I really want to be at all gifting a card. But it can still counter creature spells, but it's double blue. I don't know how much I'm feeling the double blue situation. I probably wouldn't play that. I'm not trying to be a damsel in these situations, sitting back trying to counter cards, trying to be aggressive. We got Night Fisher, 5 mana, 3 generic, 2 blue, creature bird knight, flying. Whenever another non token bird you control enters, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token. It's a 4/5. That's a hefty cost. You got to play it and then get something else to happen. Granted, it's a 4/5. It doesn't do anything when it enters the battlefield. Not too excited. Nowadays, it's all about the ETBs and immediate triggers. Next, we have Daring Wave Rider, 6 mana, 4 generic, 2 blue, creature otter wizard, uncommon. When it enters, you may cast target instant or sorcery with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell be put in the graveyard, exile it instead. This is a 4/4. I think this is pretty solid, but it goes in that range of I would probably only want one copy. 6 mana is pretty expensive just to replay a instant or sorcery 4 or less. So I think that's kind of overcost, but you could always try it. I would try one of them. Next, we have Plum Creed Escort, 2 mana, one generic, and a blue. Creature Bird Scout, uncommon. Flash, flying. When it enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. So I think this goes really, really well with the Valiant mechanic. It's a 2/1 flash flyer. It comes in, gives another creature hexproof, which may trigger Valiant, may not, whatever. That's really good. You can protect pretty much whatever you want for 2 mana and a creature. There's ways to bounce creatures. So effectively like recursive fizzle or creature fizzle on removal. I like that a lot. 2 mana, that's great. Next we have Into the Flood Maw, a blue gift to tap fish. Return target creature an opponent controls to its owner hand. If the gift was promised instead, return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner hand. So just an unsummon. I think this is great. So you're in blue. You're trying to play your crab. What's it called? Eddie Merc crab. They play their 1 drop, on turn one. You follow up, boom, into the flood maw. That's your 1 drop in the yard, right there. I think that it's so easy to play, and it scales up so well. Unless they have like ward or hexproof or something, you're gonna bounce that creature at the perfect time. Next, we have Otter Ball Antics. 2 mana, 1 generic, and a blue sorcery. Create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature with prowess. If this spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. And it has flashback. Oh, man, give me some otters. Some prowess otters. This is gonna be crazy. I would play as many of these as I could, with as many bounce probably as I could as well for one. And then play those crabs to finish it off. Next we have Splash Portal, 1 mana sorcery, exile target creature you control, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If that creature is a bird, frog, otter, or rat, draw a card. Interesting but not exciting. Next, we have Long River Lurker, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a blue creature, frog scout with ward 1. Other frogs you control have ward 1. Whenever it enters, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals combat damage this turn, you may exile it. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's a 2/3. I haven't come across anything with ETBs good enough for me to care about that. Mm, So, not that exciting of a card. Not even sure what to say about it. I mean, it's a 3 mana 2/3 with ward. One that gives other frogs you control ward. So if you happen to be playing frogs, it's good. But otherwise, I wouldn't build around it. Wouldn't care too much about it. Next, we have Splash Lasher, 4 mana, 3 generic, and a blue. Creature frog wizard with offspring 2. Generic and a blue. When it enters, tap up to one target creature and put a stun counter on it. It's a 3/3. So for 6 mana, you get to bring out a 3/3 and a 1/1 that taps down two of their creatures. Okay. Once again, the 4 drop slot is kind of stacked, and getting into 6 is even worse. So I don't know if I would necessarily want to play the card, but in my Frog Matters deck, maybe. Next, we have Sugarcoat, 3 mana, 2 generic, and a blue. Flash, enchant creature or food. Enchanted permanent is a colorless food artifact with pay 2, tap, sacrifice artifact, gain 3 life, and lose all abilities, and lose all other card types and abilities. Okay, so you flash this out and just turn it into a cookie or turn it into a food. That's flavorful. See what I did there? Sugarcoat, flavorful. You got to call it out. Next, we have Shoreline Looter, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a blue. Creature, rat, rogue, uncommon. Can't be blocked. It's a 1/1. With Threshold, when you deal combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card unless you have Threshold activated. So just an unblockable creature, 1/1 unblockable creature. Will you be able to give it additional power to really drive in the damage? Who knows? And also, I mean, there's going to be life gain going on too. How fast will Dex need to be to out damage the life gain? How prominent will life gain be? Because if it's a part of the mechanic, you're going to be sure to see life create duos and whatnot in different places. Next, we have Skyskipper Duo, 5 mana, 4 generic, and a blue. Creature Bird Frog, flying. When it enters, exile to one target creature you control. Returns to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next instant. Meh. That's all I can say, meh. I don't even know if I want to try the card. A 5 mana 3/3 that bounces my own thing instead of bouncing. I want to bounce creatures back to my opponent's hand, not necessarily bounce my creatures back. And I get it. I get it. They're frogs, so they're bouncing up and down. But still, I think that should be relevant to the opponents as well. Give us the option. Give us the option. Next, we have Light Shell Duo. 4 mana, 3 generic, and a blue. Creature rat otter with prowess. When it enters, surveil 2, 3/4. Meh. 4 mana is a very important slot. Once again, you typically want to be, removing or putting down like a really good threat on turn 4. And this just doesn't seem to be it. Like turn 4, 5, and 6 are becoming even more crucial because when you're On those turns, you either want to play two small, really good things, or you want to play one large, really good thing. And these aren't really like shaping up to be like enter the battlefield and do something impactful for 4 mana. Enter the battlefield, especially like we've had things like I know we're still in blue, but Ravenous Chupacabra enters the battlefield, blow up something. Like what? Like yeah, it's a very important turn. Next we have Dazzling Denial. It's a 2 mana instant, counter target instant, counter target spell unless its controller pays two. If you control a bird, counter that spell unless its controller plays four. I'm not. I don't think I'm gonna be playing counters at all this season. If you catch me playing counters, you catch me doing something interesting. Next we have Dire Downdraft, 4 mana, three generic, and a blue instant. It costs one less to cast if it targets an attacking or tapped creature. Target creature target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. This is another ability I've never been a fan of, especially in limited. I never think it's worth it. I've had friends that think it's worth it, maybe in certain circumstances, but that's not a card I'm ever going to be looking at to take seriously. Next, we have Shore Up, one blue mana, instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. You can untap it. That's solid. Once again, it pairs with Valiant. Um, Not something I'm gonna be gunning for turn one, pack one, pick one, nothing like that. But if I'm in a deck with very valuable creatures, I'm gonna want to give them 1/1 and hexproof. And Valiant even makes it even better. Next we have Bellowing Crier, 2 mana, one generic and a blue. Creature Frog Advisor, when it enters, draw a card. Discard a card, it's a 2/1. I think that still goes with the frog theme as well. Frogs are not looking great. I'm just gonna put that out there. The rats look the rats are cool, but they don't look that great as well in comparison to like the power the rabbits are about to put out. Night World Hermit, 3 mana, two generic and a blue. Rat Rogue, Vigilance, Threshold. As long as there's seven or more cards in your graveyard, it has 1/0 and can't be blocked. So this is a 3 mana, 2/4 that can't be blocked. If you have a bunch of unblockable creatures and you're pumping them and hexproofing them, opponents in for a world of hurt unless they're gaining life. If they're gaining life and they're flying overhead and they just don't care because the damage is not sufficient enough, you're going to be in a world of hurt yourself. So what's the option? You have to have lifelink going yourself, or you need bigger threats, or you need ways to kind of pump these up. So 2/4 early is not even that great. And so you play this on turn three. There's no possible chance you have threshold activated yet. You have to wait. And that puts it down on the scale for me because a 1/4 is just not that solid. Now the vigilant might be important, but not early game. Next we have Mind Spiral, 5 mana, four generic and a blue. Sorcery, gift a tap fish. Target player draws three cards. If the gift was promised, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. 5 mana, draw three cards. It's really expensive. Like 6 mana, draw five cards is like okay, that's really cool. But they also had the other options on there. Just for what that does, I don't think I would really use it. Next we have Water Spout Warden, 3 mana, two generic and a blue. Creature Frog Soldier. Whenever it attacks, if another creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, it gains flying to end the turn. 3/2. Meh. Some of these are just getting mez because it's like I can see it being played, but it's not like exciting. It seems filler. It's not even like a pick. It's more like, oh well, I happen to get this card. Let me see how it works. Long River Lurker. Didn't we go over this already? Yeah. Next we have Thought Shucker, 2 mana, one generic and a blue. Creature Rat Rogue with Threshold. Pay two, a generic and a blue. Put a 1/1 counter on Thought Shucker and draw a card. Okay. Okay. I mean, what? You have 7 cards in the yard, and all of a sudden this is just pumping and drawing cards. It's really good, especially in the common slot. This is somewhat better than the other higher cost cards I saw, or higher rarity. Next, we have Finch Formation, 3 mana, 2 generic and a blue. Creature Bird Scout with Offspring 3, flying. When this creature enters target creature control gains flying until end of turn. 2/2. Meh. 3 mana that makes a 1/1. 3 mana 2/2 that makes a 1/1 copy of itself that gives flying to 2 other creatures. Run away together, 2 mana, 1 generic and a blue, instant. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hand. Okay. I think we've seen abilities like that before. Once again, nothing to write home about. Next, we have Pearl of Wisdom, 3 mana, 2 generic and a blue, sorcery. Cost 1 less to cast if you control an otter, and you get to draw 2 cards. So for potentially 2 mana, you get to draw 2 cards. This is one of the cheapest draw spells we've seen so far. So, all right. So otters, frogs, rats. For me, I'm not seeing the same amount of power that I felt like I saw coming from white. Um, except for like the higher rarities solely. I didn't feel like there was much synergy between the cards, especially for this to be kind of like, here birds and rabbits and all that seem to be working together. It seems like the rats are kind of working for themselves. The frogs are kind of doing their thing and just bouncing. Otters are just doing otter things. It don't seem to be a lot of synergy here. I feel like this is gonna be a lot of like did they even have a big creature that mattered for right? Oh, like all their creatures are really tiny. There wasn't a lot of support between them. You got some unblockability, but you still need to be able to finish the game out. Blue seemed pretty weak when it came to attack power. I think the biggest attack we saw, well, no, no. I mean, if you want some attack power, better pick up Eddie Merc Crab 5/5 for 7 mana. That's where your beef is. But that's the biggest creature you get in blue. Is a 5/5. Was that the same case with white? Did we even get a 5/5? Like maybe I'm biased. It just seemed like the value in white, 'cause the synergy amongst each other was so good. So maybe that's why I didn't care about just individually just strong cards. But no, in white, I think the biggest I saw was 4/5, and that was in Mythic. Jeez. All right. What up, Plague? Thanks for pulling up. Was just getting ready to take a little quick break before I get into the black spells. A lot of cards, but we're chugging through them. I might actually do a little draft real quick before I continue. Rest my voice for a second, and that's how I'll break. Like each card is essentially like a book. But I think there's a lot of fun looking cards. I cannot wait to play them. There we go. Not gonna do too much description on the draft. Yeah, yes, Samaj. I think it's going to be a lot of synergy based as well. That was my concern with the blue spells. I feel like the blue spells didn't have a lot of synergy amongst them, whereas mono white by itself looks incredible. If I had to play mono white versus mono blue, I would definitely lean towards the mono white build. It has the removal I want. It has the aggressive creatures I want. Has the synergies I want. Whereas blue has the sneakiness that I think goes with blue and some very impactful plays. I just don't know if the consistency is there and if the rarity is there too. Because if too many of the cards you need are higher rarity, there's a less chance you're going to see them when you need them. Hmm. I don't even know what to pick here. Mm, I'm kind of leaning towards form a posse. Create X11 mercenaries, red white, but the red and white don't even look too good out of this pack. You got Holy Cow, which I think is good. Flyer 2/2, quick draw. Blue's kind of stacked, but just as far as having cards, I wouldn't say he's like stacked for playables. This pack's just overall not very exciting to me. Okay, Dusk Animus, 2 mana, 2/3. I'm not unhappy about that. If you control five or more untapped lands, it enters with two 1/1 counters and have lifelink. So it's a 4/5 for two or free by that point. That was an easy snatch up in my opinion. Another 2 mana life linker potentially here. That's not bad. We're not committed to red either. Hmm. I'm low key leaning towards the gardener. I think it's just a nice utility play. I think these are really good plays. I don't really want to lose them. Yeah, I felt like all my plays were really good. If I went into black for that flyer, I don't know how good I would feel about it before having a gardener to run. The straight up exiling creature is just too good. I can't neglect that. Uh oh. That's really good, right? Absolutely no reason to take it, is there? I don't have any creatures with power 4 or greater at the moment. Really want that red black land there. Huh. I wouldn't. Not looking great actually. It's not looking that good. We had a good couple first picks here in white. Like I don't know how we're gonna actually win. Just journey to nowhere. Just deal with threat immediate. Reevaluate. What are we really trying to play red? Because it seems like we're just white black. Just a 2 mana Death Toucher. Sold. And we got the white black land there, but we got just two great picks here. Really three. We got picks here. Do I have ways to trigger? I don't really have ways to trigger this, but it's a 3 mana Death Toucher as well. So oh, Corrupted Conviction with Outlaw Medic might be a little bit of a bop. Expensive, ain't it? Really like this spell. Oh, I'm not gonna have any mounts. Flying and Vigilance. Still going with the Holy Cow. I don't have hardly any way to really commit crimes, not on a repetitive level. So I don't even know if the Omens is going to be that great versus another Holy Cow. Oh, just trying to make sure to have some deserts for my deserts due. Creature count is 16. Honestly, I think I have enough playables. I don't think Dredges is going to be the make or break for the build. Okay. Hmm. Be right back.